Yao and Bradley Hayes will start, and Isaac Copeland and Jesse Govan will come off the bench today for the Hoyas. So he's looking for a little more strength, a little more toughness on the court against Oklahoma State. Underway with the Cowboys in white, the Hoyas in dark blue, and Georgetown with the first possession of the game.
Oklahoma State starting out as man-to-man. This is a team that gets out into passing lanes. They pressure the ball. They want to force you further out on the court and take you away from what you normally do.
Backdoor cut, but unable to finish at the rim is Peak. He was bothered right as he was trying to slam it home. Joseph Forte misses the three. Forte looking to have a better game, a bigger game than he did against North Carolina. The Tar Heels really held him in check. He did not make a field goal, and there is an early three for Agao to give Georgetown the lead.
And taking advantage of transition. Leighton Hammonds for Oklahoma State has got to have a good game, and he also needs to stay out of foul trouble. He's been picking up some fouls, trying to play hard, but he's got to play a little bit smarter as well. Good fake.
You ever seen a guy fake out two defenders running at him with one fake, but Forte missed the shot?
They shouldn't have two defenders running after him. They need to communicate and have just one.
Jagan Mosley loses it out of bounds back to the Cowboys. First-year head coach in Stillwater is Brad Underwood, off a very successful three-year stint at Stephen F. Austin, taking the Lumberjacks to the NCAA tournament all 3 years. And he, like John Thompson, preaching toughness heading into this game, right?
Well, they both want their teams to compete. Georgetown didn't compete on the glass against Wisconsin, and Oklahoma State played what I consider to be the best team in the country. North Carolina is the best team I've seen. They are so good. They're old. You know, most teams are going with at the top have such young talent. North Carolina has got old talent.
Hammonds was called for the foul as first, and you can see the reaction from his coach on that. Yeah, Carolina, if you haven't seen them this year, if you haven't seen them this week, they have been tremendous. They beat Chaminade by 43. You kind of expect something to that effect, but then they beat Oklahoma State by 32. They've averaged over 105 points per game in their 2 games in this tournament. And there's Rodney Pryor, the grad student transfer from Robert Morris, knocking down a corner three.
Georgetown spreading the floor, and they are looking to cut backdoor, make hard cuts, but still keeping the floor spread. L.J. Peak didn't have the shot. He found Rodney Pryor in the corner. Here's the two-man game off the 2 side.
Lucas Gasson getting the start in the middle for Oklahoma State instead of Mitchell Solomon. And so far, the Cowboys ice cold from the perimeter.
Anytime there's an overplay and there's a dribble at, if you get dribbled at, you go backdoor. And that collapsed the defense and allowed the lefty Rodney Pryor in the left corner to drain the three. Georgetown getting off to a really good start.
Hayes rolls to the bucket and misses the 13-foot jump shot, but the offensive rebound comes down to the Hoyas. Didn't hit the rim, so the shot clock does not reset. Agao out on the perimeter, driving by Gasol, forced it up into traffic, and it's out of bounds to Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State really wants to speed you up. That pressure is going to get you trying to do things that you don't normally do. And when you catch it further away from the basket, all of a sudden your passes are longer, your drives are longer, and that can be really disruptive in and of itself.
Georgetown looking to compete on the glass. They already got an offensive rebound, which they did not have an individual offensive rebound in the entire game against Wisconsin. There was one dead ball offensive rebound out off the Badgers. But to say they were dominated on the glass is an understatement.
A total understatement. I've never seen a Georgetown team get beat up like that physically.
Hammonds around and out, and Hayes down with a rebound for the Hoyas.
Leighton Hammonds is 2 of 16 from three-point range on the season. His jump shot, it'll fall, but it hasn't fallen yet.
Hayes slips inside, reverses it up and in, and a great start for the Hoyas, up 8-0 early.
Lucas Gasson cannot go for that ball. If he can't get it, he's got to stay behind and make Bradley Hayes take a tough shot. That's part of post defense.
Evans misses the floater, but Lindy Waters is there, and finally the Cowboys are on the board.
This Georgetown team is a good defensive team. And actually against Wisconsin, their first shot defense wasn't all that bad. It was actually pretty decent. The problem was they gave up second shot after second shot.
Foul before the shot, so no basket for L.J. Peak, and Brad Underwood does not like what he sees He is sending a whole wave of people in off the bench already. 4 changes coming right now for the Cowboys.
Well, bet you I know who's not coming out.
He's not the best in the business for nothing, folks. Jawan Evans is the guy who's not coming out. And they are so reliant on him, at least, Jay, in this tournament. They've been so reliant on him for offense.
And he's provided it. North Carolina, I thought, did a really great steal by Shine.
And numbers 3-on-1. Hoya's not getting back. Count the bucket and a foul.
What a great play by Cameron McGriff. He went up with authority. Flight number 12 cleared for takeoff. Boy, that was a big-time finish by the freshman. This kid is going to be really good, and a good call by the official as Rodney Pryor just slid underneath as he hit his plant foot and was going up. Cameron McGriff plays hard. He has a chance to be, I think, one of the best rebounders in the Big 12. Maybe not right away, but as he goes throughout his career.
Before the season, Brad Underwood brought in some Navy SEALs to spend some time with the Cowboys, as a number of programs do. They do that kind of thing. Layup is good for Mosley. And after 2 days of intense workouts with the Navy SEALs, the head of the Navy SEALs said to Brad Underwood, pointed to McGriff, and he goes, "That's your alpha dog right there. That's the tough customer on the team."
Yeah, the best leader. And how about this? Cameron McGriff cannot swim. And the Navy SEAL workout, he was the MVP.
Yeah. Talk about overcoming an obstacle. And that's a highlight that's going to live for a while for Cameron McGriff. 10-5 Hoyas, 4 minutes in. Agal, the transfer from Louisville, with a little shot put up and in, and the lead grows to 7.
Boy, these are a couple of moves he hadn't shown before now. Really poor job in transition defense by Georgetown. That is un-Hoya-like.
Jeffrey Carroll with the slam, and right now all Oklahoma State is getting is in transition. Twice the Hoyas have not gotten back, and it's cost them 5 points. Burst of speed, and Mosley is fouled to take us to the first timeout of the game. 12-7 Georgetown, but Jay, it's McGriff with the highlights so far.
Well, you don't get many opportunities to get a dunk like that in transition.
And what a view it is here on the island of Maui. Our thanks to Maui Gym, title sponsor of this great event, the 33rd year of the Maui Invitational. Dan Shulman, Jay Billis, the third place game between Georgetown and Oklahoma State, and the Hoyas up 5. Hayes, just his second game of the season for Georgetown. Track for the backdoor cut, picked off by Evans, and again, the Cowboys flying up the floor. DeZagua for 3. Thomas DeZagua, the freshman from Temple Terrace, Florida, great outside shooter, brings the Cowboys back within 2.
A horse game between DeZagua and Phil Forte would be must-see TV. DeZagua, when he gets his feet set, he just pours that thing in the basket from range. Phil Forte says his range is better. If they got in a horse contest, he thinks he could win from deep range, but if it's right at the three-point line, he says it's a toss-up between he and DeZagua.
There's Forte, who will become the Oklahoma State all-time leader in made three-pointers this year. At the line, Hayes, we mentioned just his second game back. He received a 5th year of eligibility, but had to sit out the first 4 games of the season. It goes back to his freshman year, where he played sparingly. Also lost his father that year. Just played a few minutes in 4 conference games. Played a few non-conference games as well. And the NCAA said, we'll grant you the 5th year. You can come back, but you've got to sit out the first 4 games of the season. I know you gave your thoughts on this during last night's game. Unfortunate he had to sit out any games at all this year, but great to see him granted that extra year.
And he played. I thought he was one of the few Hoyas up front that really fought against Wisconsin. Did a good job in the post, fought on the glass. Bradley Hayes has turned into a really good basketball player. His first 3 years at Georgetown, he scored a grand total of 30 points. Then last year averaged about 8 points, 6 rebounds, and was a real team leader on last year's squad.
And if John Thompson's looking for toughness and rebounding, Hayes is going to play. The sophomore Govan started the first 5 games of the season for the Hoyas, but Hayes getting the start here in this one.
Well, Bradley Hayes is more of a physical presence. He takes up space in there, and he's not afraid to give up his body. He bangs. Good rebound.
And he comes down with the board. Hoyas went zone there, and Tavares Shine missed an open 3, and back comes Pryor.
They usually go 2-3 zone on out of bounds under.
Jonathan Mulmore, junior college transfer. That's a good no call there. He embellished that, tried to pick up a foul call. Now, though, it's a reach-in foul on Evans. No, they're not going to give it to Evans. Looks like it will be Solomon called for the foul.
Yeah, Solomon with the body bump. He couldn't move his feet to stay in front. You've got to really like doing a Georgetown game now as opposed to when you first started, right?
We were talking last night. My first ever game at ESPN was a Georgetown game. Georgetown Colgate. Donald Foyle was playing for Colgate, and Yaya Ja, Boubacar Au, and Ruben Boomche were all members of the Hoyas in that game. Evans up and in.
Iverson to Page was a lot.
Yeah, that was a little
easier than saying Boomche over and over again.
Good pressure on the ball. Oklahoma State under Brad Underwood, first year, but one of the things you're going to see, a lot of bodies, a lot of pressure, a physical style, and here they come after forcing the turnover. Desagua, and will draw the foul.
It is so hard in transition to get back and establish legal guarding position to take a charge. And Desagua did a really good job of getting down the floor quickly and skirting that charge or charge attempt.
First on Mosley, and Desagua at the line. He's the all-time Tampa Catholic School League scoring record holder, better than 2,100 points in his career. First team All-State last year in Florida. As Forte comes back into the game and out for the Cowboys. Well, he just could not get open at all. Could not get looks against North Carolina last week.
North Carolina's game plan against Oklahoma State, I thought, was brilliant. They did not leave Phil Forte at all. Found him as soon as the shot went up. Didn't allow him anything in transition, nothing off the screens. They just stayed with them, and they decided they were going to make Juwan Evans have to score 60, and he couldn't do it. He still scored 30.
There,
Still scored 30, and it was a spectacular 30, but that's just not going to be enough to beat North Carolina. And, you know, the other guys couldn't throw it in the ocean, frankly. And the other thing I thought North Carolina did a really nice job of is they ran a lot of freelance motion and really attacked off the dribble. They moved the ball, but there was nothing patterned about it. That was a really good game plan by North Carolina.
Meanwhile, Georgetown had an 8-0 lead in this game, and now Oklahoma State's come all the way back to take a 1-point lead.
Georgetown is subject at times to some scoring droughts. But they just have to keep plugging. Here's the guy I think can put up some numbers. LJ Peak has really got to step forward and be a primary scorer for the Hoyas.
This is a pretty good look at a three, and the ball goes back over to the Cowboys.
And another guy I think that's got to really bounce back is Isaac Copeland. He is a good player that had one of his most difficult nights in the Georgetown uniform yesterday.
In this tournament, he is 1 for 13 with 2 points in the 2 games. He's a much better player than that.
Much better.
In there now, number 11 in blue. Hammonds just went right by him, but missed the left-handed lay-in. Kicked out, but into the hands of Mulmore. Great speed, and Forte with a block from behind, out of bounds to Georgetown.
Phil Forte got all ball up top. Couldn't tell whether there was any body, but that was a really good job. Couldn't tell whether Averett got him with the body, but once the ball was tied up top, I like the fact that was a no call because they had the ball.
And off the leg of Copeland, back over to Oklahoma State. 7 turnovers now committed by Georgetown, as you can see, to just 1 for the Cowboys. That's part of the game plan for Oklahoma State. Wear people down, pressure you, force you into turnovers. Georgetown beat Oregon in their first game before losing to Wisconsin, and Oklahoma State picked up a win over UConn before losing to North Carolina. So whoever gets a win here with the caliber of field that we have here to get out of here 2-1, that's a good week.
Yeah, 2-1 is good. Finishing third in this tournament says something really positive about you. And look at the teams that Georgetown and Oklahoma State lost to, both Wisconsin and North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could say enough positive things about the way North Carolina is playing right now. And it's a team that went to the national championship game last year. And I think they're actually, at this point in the season, they're better now than last year's team was at this point.
Shine for 3. Got it.
Good ball movement against that 2-3 zone. I mentioned that Georgetown goes 2-3 zone out of bounds underneath. It limits what you can get going to the basket. That was a good zone attack once they got the ball in. Can't pick your dribble up.
And they had scored that as a long 2 for Shine at a foot on the line. So it's 16-13 Oklahoma State after they trailed 8-0. Jump hook won't go down for Hayes. 3-point lead, Oklahoma State. When we come back, Jay Billis going 94 feet with Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's too far down. That should be up at the top above Big 12 Six-Man of the Year. It's the finest honors he's ever gotten. But how about the unemployment problem in Stillwater?
Seriously.
Juwan Evans never had a job, and Phil Forte never had a job. But this is a hard-working team, despite the fact that they have been unemployed.
And a travel. Good call. It's hopping with both feet. Another one of the points of emphasis on traveling when players set themselves is if they shuffle both feet, that's a travel, and that's being called more this year than in years past.
Yeah, and some of it's being called a little too much, I think, but that's always been a travel. I don't think they needed to emphasize that. But they're really worried about when you're catching it on the perimeter and you put down a pivot foot in a 1-2 catch and then switch the pivot foot, which I don't know why that's such a big concern.
You can see a Sonic blockbuster game coming up next week. We'll be in Durham as Michigan State takes on Duke, part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Some great games coming your way. North Carolina will be at Indiana. Syracuse will be at Wisconsin. Purdue will be at Louisville. One of the great, really, events of the college basketball season.
The ACC Big Ten Challenge has been one of the, I think, great events in college basketball over the years since it was first started. And we just have to, it's such a great opportunity to build a great resume, not only for getting into the tournament, but for your seed.
Energized by the airing of the 94 feet in the sand, Phil Forte knocks down a 3.
Phil Forte, when he goes into the corner, you want to get as deep as he can in transition, and then he can come up against the grain and get open. That's really hard to guard. He did a great job of it there. You see, he tries to get in the deep corner, and then he'll go against the defense as you get a drive in, and Averett is having a really good game.
Yeah, he is. A great driving layup to extend the lead back to 6 after the bucket for Copeland for Georgetown.
Copeland has not played well.
He got poked in the eye on the basket that he scored last time, and he's still reaching up.
He needs
some discomfort.
He needs to give the ball up.
Averett again.
Because it's been all dribble for Georgetown instead of pass. They've got to start moving and passing instead of standing and dribbling.
Oklahoma State was down 8-0. They're now.
And Oklahoma State scored 16 points off those turnovers. The Oklahoma State offense has really been off of its defense in this game.
Earlier today, Tennessee defeated Chaminade in the 7th place game, as Tennessee picked up its first win of the tournament. In the game just before this one, Oregon beat UConn. So Oregon finishes 5th in the tournament. They get out of here with a couple of wins. Evans tried to slip it to Hammonds. Now Carroll will find Shine underneath the bucket, and the lead grows to 12.
Oklahoma State just quicker to the ball, quicker to that loose ball. What a good decision by Jeffrey Carroll. Good cut.
Pryor backdoor, too strong off the glass. Caleb Johnson gathers and is fouled.
That was a really good cut by Pryor. And I think Brad Underwood's willing to live with a few backdoors to keep that pressure on. You know, it's really hard to execute a ton of backdoors in a game, and you're only giving up 2 points. What you don't want to do is give up threes, and that's really when you play the Michigan Wolverines under John Beilein. You know, you can get softened up by some of these backdoors, but it doesn't happen all that often. What you really have to worry about is that three-point line.
Forte back into the game for Shine.
And speaking of that, South Carolina beat Michigan today.
Yeah. Handle is 61-46, I believe it was.
Frank Martin and Brad Underwood worked together for Bob Huggins and worked on the same staff at South Carolina. And that similar philosophies on how to guard those kind of actions. And their philosophy is choke it to death.
Good catch there after the deflection by Forte to retain possession for Oklahoma State. Floater by Carroll, tipped back up and in. What an acrobatic play by McGriff.
Nobody put a body on Cameron McGriff. He was just able to run in from around the elbow. And you get a running start. Everybody's athletic enough to tip dunk it in.
Mosley, and Hayes is bumped before the shot, so no basket.
But you give a run up to a great athlete like McGriff, and it can be spectacular. And there he is right at the elbow. Nobody even goes near him. And that's about as easy as it gets. Left-handed tip in.
And Georgetown is actually winning the battle on the glass today. That's the good news in spite of that play right there after they were really humiliated on the glass by Wisconsin last night, 50-21. The biggest problem statistically for the Hoyas today is the turnovers. They've coughed it up 10 times already, and the Cowboys have turned those 10 into 16 points at the other end. And Oklahoma State's going to do that to a lot of people this year.
They are. And handling pressure is a real key. And that means your front court guys have got to make themselves available as outlets. They've got to catch, face the defense, and be able to make a play. And the more playmakers you have on the floor going against that pressure, you're not going to be able to run patterned offense.
Another problem for Georgetown. They're 3 for 8 at the free throw line, including missing the front end of a 1-and-1 twice.
And that's on Georgetown. Like, they've been shooting a really good percentage from the free throw line and getting there like crazy. They were shooting just under 80% coming into the tournament, and they were getting the line over 30 times a game.
So here's McGriff, the junior from Grand Prairie, Texas, comes in averaging about 5 points, 5 rebounds per game. He had 13 points, 5 rebounds, and a couple of steals in the first round win over UConn.
He started the season off when they played Campbell, had 13 rebounds in that game. He can be a big-time rebounder. Freshmen were not built like that years ago. But he looks like a football player.
Boy, tough news for UConn. They found out that Terry Larrier has suffered a torn ACL and will miss the season on what was really an innocent-looking play, as Hayes can't put in the follow. They're already without Alterique Gilbert with a shoulder injury. Don't know the time frame on him coming back. And Kevin Ollie's team is they're going to have to adapt to the injuries. This is a big loss for the Huskers.
It is a huge loss, and Terry Larrier just planning on that left foot, and that's where the injury came from. Tearing that ACL, but he sat out last year after transferring from VCU. And what a classy young man as he was being helped off the floor. He went into the huddle to encourage his teammates.
Big screen there by Pryor. Hayes with the finish.
Well, Hayes on the last possession had an offensive rebound and tried to baby it back in there and missed it. He wanted to make sure he didn't miss this at all. That's almost another push-off by Brandon Averette. Just got an offensive foul doing just about the same thing on the prior possession.
Evans on the bench right now. He's only got 2 points, but Oklahoma State's got a nice lead because so many other guys are stepping up today. Peak for 3.
Not the shot.
And we got basket interference.
Yeah, I thought that shot by L.J. Peak. Open shot away. It's like teaching math to someone who's got a gift for math. I mean, I sat there for hours being tutored in math, and I still don't get it. And some people pick it up right away, and Dwayne Evans is Einstein off ball screens.
14-point lead, Cowboys. There's a ball screen there, keeps the dribble alive, finds Waters for 3. Ball hits the deck and then finally winds up in the hands of Mosley, who will slam it at the other end for Georgetown.
Oklahoma State gets the ball in right away. They don't waste any time. Really, the goal for Oklahoma State is to get the ball down court, and if they can score in the first 7 seconds of the shot clock, do it.
Evans will try, and he will.
Just a knack. He got it right up over Bradley Hayes. An amazing field.
Pryor turns it over.
Look who's on the floor and who's not.
Yep. Forte and Waters, 2 Cowboys, were the first 2 guys down to the deck. And Brad Underwood's got to like the hustle. They're just 2 and 3 on the season, and they're down 14 to the Cowboys right now. With 2 minutes to go in the first half. Don't forget the championship game coming up 10 o'clock Eastern time tonight right here on ESPN2. The Wisconsin Badgers and the North Carolina Tar Heels. Both schools brought a lot of people to Maui here this Thanksgiving week. The gym will be alive.
How many times have you heard coaches say, we've got too many nice guys? Our kids are really nice kids. We got too many nice kids. Rafter used to say, we got too many milk drinkers.
We were talking to a coach one time, an assistant coach, won't say who, and he said, you know what our problem is at halftime? Our guys are like baking a cake for the guys on the other team. He goes, we don't want guys who are going to bake a cake for guys on the other team. We want guys who are going to punch somebody in the mouth, figuratively speaking, on the other team. But
I love cake.
Say it in your Bill Walton voice.
I love cake. I love Maui. I love Maui, Jim.
Talked to Bill Walton, said they did the earlier games with Roxy Bernstein, said he's going back home. He goes, no, I'm staying here till Tuesday. I got 5 days of bike riding ahead of me here in Maui.
You talked to Bill Walton?
I did.
I listened to Bill Walton. Nobody enjoys life more than Bill Walton.
Yep.
Except for Roxy Bernstein.
10 to shoot. Evans, nice look to Waters, but it's poked away.
L.J. Peak poked it away. Smart play.
Pryor avoids 2 defenders and lays it in.
Well, L.J. Peak saved a bucket there, and it turned into a bucket for Georgetown.
Hoyas trying to hang around. Down a dozen in the final minute of the first half.
Here comes the ball screen.
Evans lays it up and in again. Boy, he is a wizard in there.
Well, you had Bradley Hayes hedging out and just hesitated and then went. I mean, that's the feel we're talking about. He's just got a savant feel off the ball screens.
Hoyas could hold for the final shot.
I'm surprised that
they turn it over yet again. And then get it back. Still a lot of time.
Ooh. Boy, 2 bad mistakes by Lindy Waters, the freshman, who's usually a really smart player. And Pryor and Juwan Evans collided. Both of them are down and trying to get up.
Evans is up. Pryor needs some help getting up. The foul was on Waters, his second.
All kinds of pillows. Looks like a hockey game.
And everybody appears to be okay as Peak heads to the free throw line for the Hoyas.
Well, Georgetown has given up almost 50 points in this first half. And that is way too many. A number of those points have come off Georgetown mistakes to give Oklahoma State advantage situations and then offensive rebounds. I mean, you clean those things up, and you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, 14 turnovers have turned into 18 points for the Cowboys. Coast to coast, Evans, the kick. Wide open to Zagwa. Got it! You can't do it any better than that. What a way to end the half.
That is one outstanding player, Juwan Evans, and finds the great shooter, Thomas DeZagua.
Boy fan, Cameron McGriff.
This wasn't a hard decision, was it?
No.
That was just a beautiful fast break, and not many guys can finish with that kind of authority. That was really impressive.
The freshman from Grand Prairie, Texas. 8 different Cowboys made a field goal in the first half. 7 of the 8 made at least 2. A balanced attack for Oklahoma State in the first 20 minutes. They cough it up on the first possession of the second half. Peak. Agau misses the 3. Got the start today. Scored 11 points in the first half for the Hoyas. And Pryor called for the travel.
Yeah, just a straight line drive. Another turnover, but Georgetown showing a little bit of fight. But you just need a straight line drive there. Lindy Waters was closing out essentially from the elbow to get there. And you don't want to drive into her and drive to the bucket.
15th turnover committed by Georgetown in this game. Evans got going offensively towards the end of the first half. Floats it up off the rim. Gasson is there to clean it up.
Now that time, after maybe they expected that shot to go in, weren't alert to it, but there were essentially 5 Georgetown uniforms just sitting and watching that.
How about that pick there by Forte? He'll pull up at the elbow. And Gasson with another offensive rebound. He's feeling it right now. Back-to-back plays on the offensive glass for the 7-foot freshman from the Netherlands.
I would call a timeout here if I were Georgetown and see if you could recalibrate, because that effort, the last 2 efforts, this is not good at all.
And now they've turned it over. Numbers at the other end. Forte with a clean look. And now here comes the timeout. What a disastrous start to the second half for Georgetown as the Cowboys score 7 points in less than a minute and a half. ESPN's coverage of the 2016 Maui Gym Maui Invitational, a part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. The championship game still to come tonight. But an hour and 15 minutes from now, right here on ESPN2, Wisconsin and North Carolina. We can tell you, if you're the kind to plan ahead, the field has been set here in this tournament for each of the next 2 years as Hayes gets a lay-in for Georgetown. Next year features the likes of Michigan, Notre Dame, Cal, Wichita State, VCU, and then 2018 is loaded with Duke, Arizona, Xavier, Iowa State, Gonzaga among the schools coming in 18. Here's the field for next year, 2017.
Both VCU and Wichita State right now in the Bahamas at the battle for Atlantis. Wichita State just blew out LSU today. Just blew them out.
82-47. Agow into Hayes. Too strong off the glass, and Waters keeps it alive and it finds Evans.
That pass needed to be earlier. Hayes was open earlier right under the basket.
Gasol looking for some help, finds Evans. Boy, did they swarm Evans to get the ball out of his hands moments ago. And McGriff fouled on the baseline drive.
Koya Gao has really been the only offense for Georgetown in this ball game.
Played sparingly at Louisville, had a career high there of 4 points. He's got 11 today in his first start as a member of the Hoyas. He got the start in place of Isaac Copeland, who did not play well in the first couple of games. And again, John Thompson was looking for somebody to step up, some toughness, some rebounding. He went with Hayes and Agow over Govan and Copeland.
Really, a lot of this game right now is going to be about handling pressure for Georgetown. And even though Oklahoma State is out to a substantial lead, you want to see the Hoyas keep plugging and keep fighting.
Carroll in for Waters.
Yeah, we've seen teams in this tournament. It happened last year. You know, Indiana came here last year, got beat by Wake Forest, then got beat by UNLV. And things were looking pretty bleak, and people were starting to chirp and make a lot of pronouncements about Indiana. They came back and they became an excellent basketball team, won the Big Ten, went to the Sweet 16.
What'd you think of the loss to Fort Wayne yesterday for the Hoosiers?
Johnny Appleseed, baby. You go into Fort Wayne, you better bring your game. You know, last year at this time, North Carolina went to Northern Iowa and lost. So you step out on the roads, you can slip on a banana peel if you're not prepared for a fight.
Hayes is fouled. Interesting matchup coming to the ACC Big Ten Challenge next week in Bloomington as Indiana hosts North Carolina, the team that we will see next in the championship game here in Maui. Obviously, Indiana's ranking is going to fall after Fort Wayne. North Carolina, if they beat Wisconsin, they will leapfrog over Indiana to be sure.
Everybody's going to lose. I don't see any team that was like Kentucky a couple of years ago that's going to have an opportunity to go 38-0 heading into the Final Four. But we've got some teams that I think are head and shoulders above the crowd. And Kentucky is certainly one of them. And those guards that the Wildcats have, De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk, they are truly special. I heard Dino Gaudio say in the studio last night, he thinks they may be the best freshman guard tandem to ever come into college basketball. Now, the one that came into mind when he said that was UCLA in 1980 with Rod Foster and Michael Holton. Now, those freshman guards took UCLA. Well, Kiki Vandeweghe did it, but those freshman guards took UCLA with Larry Brown all the way to the championship game before losing to Louisville and Darrell Griffith and Wiley Brown and Scooter McRae, Rodney McRae.
Speaking of freshmen, not freshman guards, but freshmen saw today that for Duke, Giles, Tatum, and Bolden all dressed and all went through the warm-up, but none playing in the game against William and Mary today.
Well, that's a good sign, just dressing for the game.
With the shot clock running down, Forte heaves one, but can't find it, and now Oklahoma State doesn't get back, and Pete will lay it in.
There's a bad offensive possession. Oftentimes a bad shot leads to a run out. Look how low Evans gets to the ground.
Scoop up off the glass, no good. Trey Campbell now at the point. Peak and Pryor on the wings, and Agow and Hayes up front for the Hoyas. They like to bring Hayes up to the high post. They've got a couple of backdoor looks off that play. And they get a baseline drive here from Pryor, and he draws the foul.
This pressure is just choking off everything that Georgetown wants to run. And anytime you make a catch, whether it's Bradley Hayes, it doesn't matter. I still think catching, turning, and facing the defense is important. They can make those pocket passes backdoor, but I don't think there are enough backdoors available in order to take the lead in this one. That can soften you up just a little bit, but I'm really impressed that Oklahoma State hasn't backed off just because they've gotten backdoored a few times.
Averett back into the game. Some good minutes off the bench for the freshman in the first half as some of the starters get a breather here as we're coming up to the under 16 media timeout.
Now it's up to Averett to handle some of the pressure. A little 1-2-2 3/4 court pressure with traps.
Deflected out of bounds by a Gal.
Leighton Hammond's made what I consider to be a mistake there. Instead of catching and facing the defense and then attacking, he caught and dribbled. And that led to the ball being deflected out of bounds. Could have led to a turnover. The worst thing you can do as any player, and whether half court or full court, is catch and dribble. You want to catch, face the defense, and then make a play.
Nice look from Averett to Carroll for the baseline jumper.
Baseline drive, baseline drift. And Jeffrey Carroll is a good-looking player. He's so productive in his minutes out on the floor. I think he can become an excellent defender.
Now a steal by Hammonds. And he'll head to the free throw line as a Gal fouled to prevent the easy bucket. 19-point lead, Cowboys.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college
Gym in anticipation of the championship game that we'll have for you about an hour from now here on ESPN2.
North Carolina is going to look to push the pace, but Wisconsin expert at dictating the tempo that the Badgers want. And it is easier to slow a game down than it is to speed one up. Oklahoma State wanted to play at a really fast pace, and that's exactly what North Carolina wants. That played right into the Tar Heels' hands, and they took advantage of it. But you're going to see a much slower tempo, and the glass is going to be a huge factor because Wisconsin, a very good offensive rebounding team. North Carolina, an excellent offensive rebounding team.
Koenig and Barry won't necessarily spend the entire game on one another as Pryor lays it in, but that's a pretty tantalizing matchup in the backcourt.
No question. And Bronson Koenig, the leading scorer, and he's going to have a really good game. Not a great shooter, but he's one of their best shooters.
Off Averett, out of bounds, and back to Georgetown. And Ethan Happ, who was so good in the semifinal win over Georgetown. Now he's going to have to deal with a lot of big bodies for North Carolina, but boy, he's got a knack for rebounding and just finding space under the basket.
Yeah, he's so fundamentally sound. His feet are just fabulous. His footwork is really fun to watch. Well, take the ball with you.
Averett up and in. Averett, some really good minutes off the bench for Oklahoma State.
They're going to split a trap. Got to take the ball. LJ Peak lost it. Yet another turnover. It's got to be 19 or 20, isn't it?
We got him at 19 turnovers right now for the Hoyas. And trading baskets not nearly good enough right now for Georgetown. Averett taken away by Mulmore. Junior college All-American, second-team All-American last year at Allegheny College in Maryland. Jumper for Pryor.
Pryor is a really good player. You give him some space. He can knock down the three. He can hit off the dribble. He's a good rebounder, good passer. He's really got the complete package out there.
Brad Underwood trying to steal some minutes with Evans and Forte on the bench. He's got them both back at the scorer's table right now.
There's the two-man game on the two side of the floor after they reverse it.
Shot on the baseline, the kick to Carroll, forced it up, still had 5 seconds on the shot clock.
Just a poor possession offensively and a much better defensive possession for Georgetown. Stayed in front, made Oklahoma State go over the top.
Mulmore needs some help, picked up his dribble, and it will stay with Georgetown. And here come Forte and Evans back into the game now for the Cowboys.
You know, when you're facing pressure, the last thing you can do as a guard, because there's no 5-second call, you cannot pick up your dribble. You can only pick it up when you've got something else to do with the ball. You pick up your dribble, you're a stationary player, and then all of a sudden Oklahoma State's going into complete overplay. How far out that Georgetown's got to start its offense. That's a long drive to be able to get to the rim.
Shot clock at 5.
I don't think they know it.
Mulmore forces it up. That'll be a shot clock violation on the Hoyas.
Really good job by Leighton Hammonds to switch off and not to foul.
20 turnovers in 26.5 minutes.
That's not going to win you many games against anybody, but nice switch here in the late clock situation. Stayed solid, didn't foul.
Evans splits the defense, misses the shot, and Hayes down with a rebound.
I like the way Bradley Hayes goes after rebounds with 2 hands. He's not one of those one-handed rebounders. He goes after it with both hands.
Well, getting him back will make a difference for the Hoyas. He's got 10 points and 7 rebounds today.
He's just solid.
Big body. 7 foot 275, the senior from Jacksonville. Driving and draws the foul.
A really good job by Bradley Hayes to go against the pressure.
It is rivalry weekend, and Saturday at noon, you may have heard something about this, on ABC, the 113th playing of the game. Number 3 Michigan, number 2 Ohio State. So much on the line as a college football playoff spot could hang in the balance. It'll also be streaming live on the ESPN app and watch ESPN.
Don't you think Ohio State wins that in the shoe? I mean, I'll wait to see what Coach Corso is going to do, putting the headgear on it, but I'm guessing he's going to be taking out a hairless nut.
There'll be a lot of eyeballs on that game on Saturday.
I'll be watching it.
Shine to Hammonds. Follow no good. And it'll stay at this end of the floor.
I have never been to a game at the Shoe.
I have not either.
I've obviously been to a lot of basketball games at Ohio State.
Yeah.
I have been on the field at the Big House, which is an awesome experience. They actually had recruits in when we were there. Hubert Davis actually and I went out on the field, and it was incredible. And I can only imagine what the Shoe is like.
What a scene it's going to be on Saturday. 16-point lead, Oklahoma State, second half, third place game. With the Maui Maui Invitational. Reverse layup won't go down or shine, but he's headed to the free throw line.
Actually, Columbus is an awesome place just for college sports. I mean, you go to games there, basketball games. They have a Jack Nicklaus Museum there too, right near the Schottenstein Center, and it's really cool.
What kind of noise do you think Thad Matta's team's going to make in the Big Ten?
They're going to be much better. They're going to be much better. I think they're getting back to their roots, and they're going to be better defensively. Jason Tate is a really good player. I mean, Mark Loving. They've got a good team. They'll be much, much better. Last year was an aberration because Ohio State has been a mainstay in the Big Ten since Thad Matta came to Ohio State from.
Which is not saying much at all.
You look great with those flowers around your neck.
Thank you. Where's your leg?
I'm wearing, actually, I got my puka shell necklace on right now.
Nice muscling it up and in as Waters.
He is a really good prospect, and he has played well in stretches here, but he's going to be really good. I wonder if he takes some guff being from Norman, Oklahoma, and winding up in Stillwater.
We'll find out when the Cowboys go to Norman this year. By the way, the last Georgetown foul was on Okoye Gown. He has fouled out of the game. He played well for Georgetown today, but he doesn't make it through the afternoon.
Good job denying by Lindy Waters. They're not letting L.J. Peak catch it.
Georgetown running a lot of the offense through Hayes, and he's making some nice decisions.
Well, you had L.J. Peak cutting to the basket, the first cutter, followed by Rodney Pryor, the second cutter. And oftentimes the second cutter is going to be open.
Waters, weak side follow will go for Carroll.
And Georgetown, you can see the officials very kind to the Hoyas there. The ball was kind of slammed off the ground because of the frustration. And went for a block shot. The offensive glass wide open for Jeffrey Carroll. And Georgetown, you can just see it in their faces. They are frustrated. This has been a difficult trip. They got punched in the mouth multiple times, and just beaten up on the glass by Wisconsin, and then they have been suffocated defensively and have turned the ball over like crazy against Oklahoma State.
I mean, they did get a win in their first game to get to the championship side of the draw. They beat Oregon in their first game, and that's not something to take lightly. But, boy, it has not gone well at all against Wisconsin or now Oklahoma State. And another turnover.
When you bring that ball down below your waist, even as a guard, and you are allowing your opponent to take a swing at it. You got to put that ball in front of you to reach your arms out straight instead of bringing it down to your belt buckle.
22 turnovers committed now by the Hoyas in this game. Shine turns the corner, keeps going. Nice no-look bounce pass to Gasson.
Boy, Gasson did a nice job of getting to the front of the rim as Shine was dribbling on the baseline. Oklahoma State runs good half-court offense. Make good cuts.
Caleb Johnson scoops it up and in for Georgetown.
It's going against the pressure. Weak side help not there. Ball was in the middle of the floor. That's why.
6'6" sophomore from Martinsville, Virginia. Inside, Averett snuck past the defense, and now they steal it again.
Well, anytime a pass is made, the Hoyas have to jump to the ball. That's why they're getting beat on some of these cuts. Those are just simple basket cuts.
Gasson couldn't handle the pass. Hayes ahead to Peak. He tried to bank it home. Pryor, or rather Johnson, on the glass. We've got a foul underneath to take us to a timeout with 7:24 to go here in Maui. Lucas Gasol getting the start today, earning some minutes and contributing for the Cowboys.
ESPN's exclusive.
But you could feel the frustration in the first half. I think we pointed it out that a little bit concerned that when things weren't going well, is frustration that came overnight from yesterday going to seep in, or were they going to be able to fight through it? And unfortunately for Georgetown, they weren't able to fight through it.
And also just haven't been able to take care of the ball at all today. I know we keep giving this stat, but it keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's now up to 27 turnovers committed by the Hoyas in this game. You just can't overcome that kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is mental. This is not a physical issue. This has been a mental issue. And, Georgetown's taken some body blows. And it took most of them yesterday. I mean, they got beat so badly on the glass, and they've competed better on the glass today, but they've coughed the ball up. But, a lot of credit should go to Oklahoma State. I mean, this is a good basketball team. I mean, and coming ready to play against Oklahoma State is not good enough. You got to come ready for a fist fight because you're going to get it.
Hayes lays it in for the Hoyas. He's got 13, and we're inside the final 4 minutes right now with Oklahoma State in complete command. Evans still in the game for the Cowboys along with Forte. We'll see if that changes after the next whistle, which will take us to a timeout. There is the whistle. As we get a foul going against the Cowboys. 3:35 to go. Can somebody call our bosses? Lee, David, can we hang around here a little bit longer? NHL, college basketball, they'll bring you NFL news and everything else you need on Thanksgiving Eve. Sports Center at night after the NBA on ESPN. This is crazy. I mean, these numbers are almost as crazy as the rebounding numbers that we saw in the Georgetown-Wisconsin game yesterday.
I don't think, I mean, I'm sure we've seen this before, but 27 turnovers, 41 points for Oklahoma State off of those 27 miscues by Georgetown. And how about this? Both teams have 12 offensive rebounds in the game. Oklahoma State's got 21 points off their 12 offensive rebounds. Georgetown's got 7 points off their 12 offensive rebounds. I mean, that variance is stunning.
If you said to John Thompson, you're going to shoot 53% and out-rebound Oklahoma State, he would think they'd have a pretty good chance to win the game. But then if you told him they would cough it up 27 times for 41 points, that would tell the true story.
I think if you told him they were going to cough it up 27 times, he wouldn't have come out of the locker room.
Yeah. So a learning experience for the Hoyas. Oklahoma State on its way to going 2-1 here with the wins over UConn and Georgetown. And a loss to North Carolina that, as Jay has said, may be playing as well as maybe playing better than anybody in the country right now. There's a big-time collision And the charge will go on to Mulmore as Evans stepped in there.
And I don't think Evans is going to stay in there. I think Brad Underwood saw, I don't need my best player getting run over here.
And you're right. Evans out, Averett in, Forte out, DeZagua in. What a 3 days that guy had, Juwan Evans.
He's a big-time player. I mean, I've seen him plenty, and I knew he was good, but I didn't know he was this good. I mean, you get a chance to watch a guy up close for 3 days, and you see everything. And he has no real weaknesses other than the fact that he's not 6'6".
It'll be fun to see Evans and Forte go against Mason and Graham when Oklahoma State plays Kansas this year.
I mean, I still think that Frank Mason and Devontae Graham are the best starting backcourt in the country. But Oklahoma State is going to make that one a fight. And there are a lot of terrific backcourts. But it's hard to match both offensively and defensively what Mason and Graham from Kansas bring.
Prior to the miss, and DeZagua down with the rebound. And Averett and DeZagua, whose minutes probably figure to grow over the course of the season. Also Carroll and Waters on the wing. I mean, there are a lot of good perimeter players on this team.
Well, DeZagua really stretches the floor for you because he can really shoot it. So you help off of him. And one thing he's got to really do is run the floor. If he can play ahead of the defense, he can get a number of threes in transition. Because you're going to be worried about Juwan Evans in the open floor.
Averett gets free, but it's a shot clock violation. And now Peak will come out for Georgetown with less than 2 minutes to go. Wisconsin, North Carolina. Don't forget, the championship game of the Maui Jim Maui Invitational is coming your way next, right here on ESPN2. They met a couple of years ago in the NCAA tournament. The Badgers winning that game. Still Kaminsky and Decker, that team 2 years ago, where the Badgers went all the way to the national championship game. Hayes from the elbow.
Well, one thing, when a shot goes up, you have a lot of Cowboys to go after the defensive rebound. That's a good thing to see. When the guards don't leak out and you've got all 5 guys that are going to the defensive glass.
Brad Underwood. Loving what he got from Brandon Averett today. Made some changes. They'll keep the clock going. One of the guys who just came into the game for Oklahoma State is Trey Reeves. He's the son of Big Country, Brian Big Country Reeves, who was part of the Final Four team a couple of decades ago. They call Trey Medium Country because he's got a little brother who's Little Country. Also went to the game is the son of the coach, Tyler Underwood.